Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House in Springfield, Vermont. We welcome those of you zooming in locally from Springfield or elsewhere in the southeast corner of Vermont, those in our extended community joining us from afar, and those in the meeting house in person. We are a multifaceted community, and we're glad you are all with us. For more than 200 years, we've been preaching love and the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Here we don't expect to think alike, but to love alike. We invite you to join us in seeking truth and sharing love with our neighbors. My name is Bob Allman. I'm the trustees. If you're a guest, we invite you to simply enjoy being with us. If you're on Zoom, you're welcome to join us after the service for our virtual coffee hour discussion time. If you're at the meeting house, you're welcome to converse with others. At the end of the service, there will be a kind of announcement and an opportunity for guests to introduce themselves. Thank you for joining us.
To this time and this place,
to rediscover the wondrous gift of free community,
to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life,
to reaffirm the way of the open mind and full heart,
to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and
to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair with all people as one.
that was David's sweet hope.
We have a treat for you, a song called We Shall Be Known that the choir has recorded and Julaine will play for us. We invite you to stand up so you can stretch, move, get a little oxygen flowing to the brain, and to sing along with your masks on quietly. You can. It's one of my favorite songs and certainly good for this theme.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change and life from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Thank you for joining us in that great song. Our opening words are from the Ojibwe. Grandfather, look at our brokenness.
We know that in all creation, only the human family has strayed from the sacred way.
We know that we are the ones who are divided.
And we are the ones who must come back together to walk in the sacred way.
Grandfather, sacred one, teach us love, compassion, and honor.
That we may heal the earth and heal each other.
May it be so. Now is the time that we get to say our affirmation together. Why are we here? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the needs of all beings, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony.
Thus do we covenant with each other
and
with the source of our being.
We have a treat for you. I bet you didn't know that God was going to come today.
All right. Well, yes, through something that came to my mother some years ago through the famous internet from a friend, and of course I took it on, and so we hope we can feel God here, along with St. Francis. They're having a conversation. So here you go. God to St. Francis. Frank, you know all about gardens and nature. What in the world is going on down there on the planet? What happened to the dandelions, and the violets, milkweeds, and all that stuff I started eons ago? I had a perfect no-maintenance garden plan. Those plants grow in any type of soil, withstand drought, and multiply with abandon. The nectar from the long-lasting blossoms attracts butterflies, honeybees, and flocks of songbirds. I expected to see a vast garden of colors by now, But all I see are these green rectangles.
It's the tribes that settled there, Lord. The suburbanites. They started calling your flowers weeds, and they went to great lengths to kill them and replace them with grass.
Grass, but it's so boring. It's not colorful. It doesn't attract butterflies, birds, and bees, only grubs and earthworms. It's sensitive to temperatures. Do these suburbanites really want all that grass growing there?
Apparently so, Lord. They go to great pains to grow it and keep it green. They begin each spring by fertilizing grass and poisoning any other plant that crops up on their lawn.
Well, the spring rains and warm weather probably make grass grow really fast. That must make these suburbanites happy.
Apparently not, Lord. As soon as it grows a little, they cut it, sometimes twice a week.
They cut it? Do they then bale it like hay?
Not exactly, Lord. Most of them break it up and they put it in bags.
They bag it? Why? Is it a cash crop? Do they sell it?
No, sir, just the opposite. They pay to throw it away.
Now, let me get this straight. They fertilize grass so it will grow, and when it does grow, they cut it and pay to throw it away?
Yes, sir.
These suburbanites must be relieved in the summer then when we cut back on the rain and turn up the heat. That surely slows the growth and saves them a lot of work.
You aren't going to believe this, Lord. When the grass stops growing so fast, they drag out hoses and pay more money to water it so they can continue to mow it and pay to get rid of it.
What nonsense. At least they kept some of the trees. That was a sheer stroke of genius, if I do say so myself. Trees grow leaves in the spring to provide beauty and shade in the summer. In the autumn, they fall to the ground and form a natural blanket to keep moisture in the soil, protect the trees and the bushes. It's a natural life cycle.
You better sit down, Lord. The suburbanites have drawn a new circle. As soon as the leaves fall, they rake them into great piles and pay to have them hauled away.
No. What do they do to protect the shrub and tree roots in the winter to keep the soil moist and loose?
After throwing away the leaves, they go out and buy something which they call mulch. They haul it home and spread it around in the place of the leaves.
And where do they get this mulch?
They cut down trees and they grind them up to make the mulch.
Enough. I don't want to think about it anymore. St. Catherine, you're in charge of the arts. What film have you scheduled for us tonight?
Dumb and Dumber, Lord. It's a story about
Never mind.
Dumb and Dumber.
That Dumb and Dumber. Big movie. St. Catherine is heaven. God says, never mind. I think I just heard the whole story from St. Francis.
Well, thanks to God and St. Francis for that bit of humorous truth. And now we have our collection of money for the ongoing work of this congregation. And if anybody brought food, did anybody bring food? Oh, good, Diane, yeah. Yeah, we have to work it, remember. remembering, building our routines. So here we go, there. We have for you a meditation, acts of merit, that Anne Marie will share with us.
To the extent that we allow ourselves to identify with the sufferings of other beings, we can identify with their strengths as well. The meditation I'm about to read to you is adapted from Meditations of Jubilation and Transformation. It was written 2,000 years ago. As you hear this meditation, I invite you to participate as much as possible, especially with making the hand gestures I'll describe. Relax and soften your eyes and take a deep breath and get comfortable. Open your awareness to the fellow beings who share with you this planet time, in this town, in this country, and in other lands. In your mind's eye, behold their multitudes. Now let your awareness open wider yet to encompass all beings who ever lived, of all races and creeds and walks of life, rich, poor, kings and beggars, saints and sinners. See the vast vistas of these fellow beings stretching into the distance, like successive mountain ranges. Now consider the fact that in each of these innumerable lives, some act of merit was performed. No matter how stunted or deprived the life, there was a gesture of generosity, a gift of love, an act of valor or self-sacrifice. On the battlefield or in the workplace, a hospital, a home. From these beings in their endless multitudes arose actions of courage, kindness, of teaching and healing. Let yourself see these manifold and immeasurable acts of merit. And now imagine that you can sweep together these acts of merit, sweep them into a pile in front of you. Use your hands, pile them up, pile them into a heap, viewing it with gladness and gratitude. Now pat them into a ball. It is the great ball of merit. Hold it now and weigh it in your hands. Rejoice in it, knowing that no act of goodness is ever lost. It remains ever and always a present resource, a means for the transformation of life. So now, with jubilation and gratitude, you turn that great ball, turn it over and over into the healing of our world. And with this exercise in mind, let us live our lives in a way that we gather this bowl of merit everywhere we go. We go searching for that in the eyes of the other, the beings that we see in our daily lives. Blessed be. Please return to this beautiful sanctuary. We'll have a lovely hymn Julaine will share with us. We would be one.
We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that healing which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
Wonderful words from a very familiar hymn and very pertinent for this time, for our service, with a little comic relief from the transcription that captions.
Should try singing those words sometime.
Yeah. So, this year, our worship team thought about what theme we want to have once a month going forward, what is pertinent to our time. And when we think about, changes to a more positive way of living and changing so that we could save the earth from all these terrible perils. Well, we know in a way we're preaching to the choir. I mean, all of us have thought about these things and are doing what we can. So we've thought about, well, how do we make it relevant? And today what we're going to do is set the stage. And we have been using, among other things, this book, The Great Turning from Empire to Earth Community by David Korten. This was published in 2006, and it is more relevant today than ever. We've also, we draw on other sources. You may know Joanna Macy and the Earth Charter. And we use those and as inspiration. But we're also going to invite you today to be part of the discussion when we're done with our little bit. And moving forward, we invite you to think about what comes up in your life in these terms. Is this going towards empire or creating earth community? And you may already be thinking that way, but we're going to invite you in previous upcoming third Sundays. If you have a little story you want to share, we want to have us be supporting each other. You know, maybe you know a great way to get a deal on an electric vehicle. Please share it. Or whatever comes up for you. This is about all of us. And we have other people. What we'll be looking for is people to share local initiatives that are helping to create the world we want. So hopefully we can all learn more about the wonderful things that are going on in our area. So having said that, let's see, we will have June read a quote from Joanna Macy. You're on, June.
Future generations, if there is a livable world for them, will look back at the epochal transition we are making to a life-sustaining society, and they will well call this the time of the great turning.
That was Joanna Macy, and these next words will be from David Korten. By what name will our children and our children's children call our time? Will they speak in anger and frustration of the time of the great unraveling? When profligate consumption led to an accelerating wave of collapsing environmental systems? Violent competition for what remained of the planet's resources? A dramatic dieback of the human population? And a fragmentation of those who remained into warring fiefdoms, ruled by ruthless local lords?
Or will they look back in joyful celebration on the noble time of the great turning, when their forebears turned crisis into opportunity, embraced the higher order potential of their human nature, learned to live in creative partnership with one another and the living earth, and brought forth a new era of human possibility.
It is the premise of the great turning from empire to earth community that we humans stand at a defining moment that presents us with an irrevocable choice. Our collective response will determine how our time is remembered for so long as the human species survives. In the days now at hand, we must each be clear that every individual and collective choice we make is a vote for the future we of this time will bequeath to the generations that follow. the great turning is not a prophecy. It is a possibility.
Thank you, Hallie, Tina, Sharon. We're going to open this up to discussion in a few minutes, but to clarify a few of the terms that are important to this work that we're continuing. In David Korten's book, he defines empire and he defines earth community. And I kind of simplified from, 400 pages. Don't want anyone to get lost in there, but so definition for empire that we're going to work with. Empire features organization by domination and appropriates much of the productive supply of society to maintain a system of power, control, and elitism. Earth community features organization by partnership, unleashes human potential for creative cooperation, allocates productive supply to supporting the potential in the population. And I'll turn this over to Sharon again.
Okay. Guess what? This is a time we are going to open this service up for discussion. What's rolling around in your head? And we have a couple of things to get you thinking.
Yeah, well, I think we could start, there's a phrase that I wrote down at an energy committee meeting some time ago, and it seemed appropriate here. Going slower does not help. We need to stop and turn around. So we are going to put out the question, where do we see this applying in our own lives? And I think just for a couple examples, the lawn care story is an example of that. To turn around, stop, and turn around our proclivity for mowing more and more and more, and thinking somehow this is a good thing and it looks nice. To stop and turn around that whole idea is something that we need to do in terms of understanding that the mowing is creating ecological deserts, basically. And yes, it's nice maybe to have a little mowed area that we need for getting around our homes, but we don't need to extend it so far. We need to be cultivating all the things that God talked about in that. So that would be one example, I would say, of stopping and turning around our outlook and how we approach that. Another one that comes to mind, this could be a topic for a whole service, but I'm just going to throw out one thing. Plastics. Plastics they're stifling and suffocating the planet. Cheese, for instance, always used to be wrapped in wax or wax paper. That's what it needs to be in, like so many other things. If we can put milk in wax cardboard cartons, why can't all the other dairy products, yogurt, whatever, go in that kind of a container? So I think, how do we encourage, do we have petitions or whatever to the co-op, for instance, and say, hey, we'd like to support more of this. In France, they now have a law where you can't put any plastic around fresh produce. That's stopping and turning around. And just one other little example, which I don't think most people may not take on, but when I see a dead animal in the road, if I can do so safely, I'm going to stop and take that animal off the road. I have a little shovel, and I put it somewhere There's two reasons. Honor the spirit of the animal, and also so predators can get at it without getting harmed themselves. And yesterday, I took 5 squirrels off the road.
They're all over the place.
Yeah, and at least getting them off the road, so that's a literal stopping and turning around. And I don't know why, I don't understand why we treat all the other creatures as if they don't matter. But that's the way I try to do a little bit to, bring out another side. So now, there's another.
And I wanted to say, thanks go to Bill and June for purchasing a new webcam, that little black thing on top of the tripod for a very low price. And it does pick up sound from way in the back of the room if you speak up and speak clearly. Even with your mask, it may not overcome the noise of a motorcycle going by, but so if you have something to say, please just use a voice like this so it projects. So, who has something to say? Maybe you could at least stand up if you have something to say. You don't need to come up. Becky.
Just try to buy fruit juice in the grocery store that's not in plastic. They tomato and pineapple in the big cans, but otherwise there's 40 feet of bottles with juice in them. And only got 2 in the cans. So,
How about glass?
well, glass, I haven't seen any glass, you gotta pinch it. But a lot of it's plastic. So, makes it really.
And maybe to Hallie's point, we could speak up and petition the store to offer more alternatives. Thanks, Becky. I share your frustration.
I have a question. Is, at the co-op, do they also sell juices out of plastic, or do they use glass?
I'm sure there's some plastic, but I know there's a lot that's, on the grocery shelves in glass.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so there's both, yeah. Hey, Dick,
Well, I guess I would comment mainly that it's going to take a lot of pretty sophisticated expertise to deal with these things. Because just to give some examples, we're walking here on plastic in this room, carpet's plastic. That candle is made of wax that comes from petroleum. 99% of all wax comes from petroleum, and there's not enough beads to make wax for wax paper. And it just, it goes on and on like that. I think that one of the things that we have to be cautious about is that there's a great tendency among reformers to disparage people who do have expertise on these sort of things. I mean, glass is a hugely energy hogging material to make. If it has any additives at all, it can't be recycled. It's heavy, it takes a lot more energy to haul around. Maybe it's the answer, but maybe it isn't. It's these things are really complicated to figure out.
that is so true. If you think back though, what did they do 100, 200 years ago before plastic? Now,
people.
there
Many
were
more
fewer people, right?
They
Yeah.
wooden barrels. I mean, New England had no trees then.
Well, glass, I mean, I have a pantry full of it because I use it over and over and over and over.
They certainly were not saying it's 100 years ago.
And the glass, when it breaks, at least it's, the earth can receive it, and it takes a while. I crush, it gets crushed up and without. Yeah, I agree. It's complicated. And the plastic is so convenient, and I think convenience is a factor that is killing us anymore. Whether it's cars or plastic or pavement or whatever.
I have a collection of lids that I've taken out of plastic, you know, obviously I have bottles and bottles of them. I'm gonna make a part magic out of them, using, you know, glue them together and do something with the letters and throw them in the trash and have some bird or something get them.
That's creative.
Making part of trash.
Did you folks hear that on Zoom?
Do you want to say that a little?
Not really.
Go ahead and say it.
Tony is going to use some trash he has collected and use it to make an art project. So,
Yeah, cardboard boxes, you can make things out of that. I'll have to bring something in that I've done
yes,
out of cardboard and, paint. And, also metals can be welded together and made into things like that. And cans, there's a lot of things you can do with that. In the lids that I collected, I'm gonna make a painting out of them, you know, putting them on top of each other and then painting over them.
okay, yeah, great. And Dan,
Well, in the title to this was the word community. And I grew up in America and I learned American individualism. And I don't know what this word means and I haven't heard anybody explain it. So I hope that in the future, we'll talk a lot more about what community means, if that's relevant to this discussion.
yeah, good point, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, Bill,
In terms of plastic, why not hemp-based plastic?
Why not what?
Hemp-based plastic,
Hemp-based plastic.
you know? I mean, Henry Ford made it, you know, about 100 years ago, he made a whole hemp car. You know,
yes.
It can be done.
Built from hemp, and it can actually be fueled by hemp oil. Although
Exactly.
that would be, it'd take a lot of hemp
yeah,
to supply all of the driving needs of this country.
Vegetable oil.
Vegetable oil, was that tea?
Yeah, it's a byproduct. You can use the vegetable oil from, you know, restaurants that are cooking vegetables to fuel the hemp car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. I see Tulane waving her fingers.
Well, in terms of plastic, I just only yesterday discovered a company that's making a elastic wrap that's like a plastic wrap that's made from potatoes. And it is completely compostable with no microplastics. So you can put it in your compost pile. And I ordered some this morning, so I'll let you know if it works. Because what a wonderful thing that would be. I mean, we need a way to preserve our food. And I've tried, you know, those beeswax coated cloths and, you know, they work for a while, but they don't really do the trick. But, you know, if they can make plastic wrap out of potatoes, I'm all for it. And it's made out of waste potatoes. So like, you know, potatoes that can't go to the grocery or something. So, you know, there are things that we can do. We just have to do them. Potatoes, who knew?
Yeah, and I would add that I think this is true at the Springfield Co-op, but the Upper Valley Co-op Produce Department, our bags to put your produce in are made from non-GMO corn. They don't last as long. They will break down eventually, which is the point. So, well, I thank you. Oh, Diane, one more.
The word expertise was used earlier, and I think that is really where much of our focus should be, because I feel like a lot of times discussions are either or. either you mow or you don't mow. And Hallie, you and I have had these conversations. We're experimenting at where Richard and I live, this thing about not mowing May and so on. We mow different parts at different times. Our neighbor mowed in May, and so that looks one way. We, of course, mow right around our house, and then I'm always, with the milkweed and all, but if you don't mow anything during the summer, the milkweed is in pretty bad shape by this point. It's pretty dead. There's a part of the field that Richard mowed earlier, and that has this new beautiful milkweed coming up. So I actually would like this to be part of maybe a garden tour next year. Because the mowing, it's got to happen or things take over. And I have my family's land that we've had since the 1700s in New Jersey, and also dealing with managing that. And there's a time where there's going to be a fire. It is one of the controlled burn, because the invasives have taken over, and so there's a former field, and it's going to have a controlled burn, and then it will be seeded. And the idea is for wildlife, because it's all forest around there. And of course, fires, if things just grow and grow and grow, it's a fire hazard, so it's complicated. And so I would really like our time to be where we're learning the fine points, not, oh, we should never mow. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's been really, anyway, there's a lot to learn, and I hope we can all keep an open mind, because if you don't mow ever, things are trying to get taken over by bittersweet and buckthorn and all these things that can just take over where nothing will grow except those things. So let's delve into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We are learning together, and being flexible and open to each other's ideas and questions is really important. Anne Marie.
And on that note, I think that was Ellen that was speaking, right?
Diane.
Ellen?
Diane.
Oh, sorry. It's hard sometimes to get the actual nuance of the voices. And also for what Dan brought up, community, because I think what our intention here is, Hallie made this great suggestion about having after discussions, even little workshops on what might come up, and mowing has come up a number of times in our, our planning time that we do for worship and arts. We sometimes get sidetracked by, a topic that grabs any one of us. So having after discussions or even set up a workshop specific to the questions, that's community. That's what our idea, or my idea rather, is of, the community sharing the ideas of how we manage this question of our choices and how we live. Because we help each other when we share this open-mindedly, and we're here to sort of how do we do this better? Nothing is perfect. I just want to say that, Dick, you brought up that point. One thing is not going to be a solution, just in and of itself by saying it. How do we do it? And that's community. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Yes, thank you, Anne Marie. You too. Yeah. So we're going to wind this discussion up. It's fertile, and we can continue afterwards and in upcoming times we gather. Okay. We have closing words from the preamble to the Earth Charter.
Okay. We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future at once holds great peril and great promise. To move forward, we must recognize that in the midst of a magnificent diversity of cultures and life forms, We are one human family and one earth community with a common destiny. We must join together to bring forth a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. Toward this end, it is imperative that we, the peoples of Earth, declare our responsibility to one another, to the greater community of life, and to future generations. The Earth Charter 2000.